Hi, my name is Angelo Lopez. I am a cartoonist in California, and I have the honor today to speak to a cartoonist in Florida, Ed Hall. Hi, Ed. Um, Hi. And I've been talking to different cartoonists from around the country to get their perspectives on them and their region. But I've also been specifically interested in talking to liberal cartoonists who are in either red or purple states. Now, are you in is Florida red or is it purple?
I think Florida's, after the last election, I think they pretty much went red.
They went
They,
red again.
yeah. I live in Duval County, which actually surprised me the last election. They actually went blue, which was surprising. But you know, it overall the state, if you look at the state as a whole, I believe it's pretty much red now. I mean,
Uh,
you got DeSantis in Tallahassee and you got Trump down in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, those are two bookends of the state. So it's pretty ruby red in between. So
Oh, okay, okay. Let me do a quick rundown on your accomplishments and stuff. So Ed was the editorial cartoonist for the Baker County Press in Macclenny. I guess that's near Jacksonville, right?
yeah, Macclenny, I'm still there. I've been there since 1990.
Oh, okay,
1990. Yeah.
okay.
One of the longest serving local cartoonists. I do a weekly cartoon for them every week since 1990.
Oh, cool, cool.
So what is that? 33 years? 30, almost 33 years, yeah.
Yeah, and you've been syndicated through the Artizans Syndicate since the year 2000.
That's
Uh,
correct.
Okay, and you won several awards. You won the 53rd Annual Green Eyeshade Award by the Society of Professional Journalists. You're a three-time winner of the Florida Press Club Award. You're a three-time winner of the Sunshine State Award for editorial cartooning. And your cartoons have been in the USA Today, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, Le Monde, which is in France.
That's correct.
Le Temps, I think it's in Italy, right?
I think that
And
might be, you know,
and
Latemps, I believe it's Switzerland, maybe.
Switzerland. Oh, okay. And Jun Spiegel, which is a German paper, and you've
Mhm.
done work for Cartooning for Peace.
That's correct. I'm a member of Cartooning for Peace. I was one of the initial members from America. They have a handful of American cartoonists there.
Oh, okay.
And that's a great organization too. Encourage everyone to Google Cartooning for Peace just to see what they're all about.
No, well, you can tell me. Can you tell me a little bit about them right now?
Well, it's an organization that was started by Kofi Annan
Oh, okay.
um, back in, oh gosh, I can't even remember what, it's been 10 years or so, maybe longer. Anyway, and it's to use cartooning to get the word out to peoples all over the world who may not necessarily, you know, everybody understands cartoons. They may not be educated, they may not, you know, have the same benefits that we have, but they can understand cartooning. And it was to use cartooning to get the word about peace and the casualties of war, and you know, out to the general public worldwide. So it's a great organization, and again, I encourage everyone to go and look them up on the internet and see what they're all about.
Okay, cool. Well, it's an honor for me to speak to you, so thank you.
No, it's an honor to talk to you as well.
Okay. Well, to start off this conversation and stuff, I want to talk about your governor. Governor DeSantis has been big in the news a lot lately, right? So I'm wondering, as a Florida cartoonist, what are your insights and thoughts on DeSantis? And what would you want the rest of the country to know about DeSantis?
Well, I think you're starting to see glimpses of how savvy he is as a politician. You know, and believe me, I have no love lost for Ron DeSantis, but he is a good politician. And I think what he may be doing right now, and I know he's doing, he's biding his time. He's waiting. He knows that Trump sucks all the air out of a room, so he's waiting for the right time, I think, to get in and to become a little more vocal. And while that's happening, I think you do see him starting to make some, you know, slight, you know, mentions of Trump. I was just watching on CNN. He's got to be really careful. He's walking a really tight rope because he's trying to, in some ways, he's trying to out Trump, and then and by pandering to his base, basically. But the problem with that is there's a point where you're not really leading, you're just pandering. I mean, you know, his whole war on woke and all that. I mean, he's, you know, there needs to be something more. I mean, I don't believe he said anything about, you know, how he fiscal responsibility or how he would, you know, how he would deal with he said something about Ukraine, but you know, it was basically that, you know, it was a territorial dispute or something like that. And you know, that kind of gives you hints about how he's going to lead, but he hasn't really come out and said even given any specifics about how his administration might lead. It's all basically this war on woke and you know, again, trying to pander to Trump's base and siphon some of those off. Now, I also heard that, you know, there's always Trumpers that'll never leave him. So what DeSantis is having to do is he's having to go after the more, you know, the Republicans and the conservatives that aren't necessarily always Trumpers. So there's like that soft middle I think he's trying to get to. Yeah. And yeah. So the other thing about
a chance with that, or
I don't know. The thing about, as I started out talking about DeSantis, he's smart. I mean, he's Yale and Harvard educated, which in some ways, you know, makes him a little scarier than Trump because he's Trump with an Ivy League education. So, and he also has a military background. His military background, though, is impressive, and you know, I got to give him props where he deserves it. You know, but you would think with that military background, he'd have a little bit more open-mindedness about helping the Ukrainians with this, you know, ungodly war they're going through right now, and unjustified war that they're going through right now. So, so I don't know. Did that kind of answer that question?
No. I mean, I you know, I'm only starting to gain some attention. My knowledge of DeSantis is pretty superficial right now because I've been focused on the Philippines and stuff, stuff, and so I figured you know, being in Florida, you know, you know probably a lot more about DeSantis than I would and stuff. So,
well, he's a family man. His wife is from here in Jacksonville. He I think he has 2 or 3 kids. One of the things that I went after him on during the initial governor's race when he ran was the fact that he used Trump as almost like he used it as a campaign slogan. He had this commercial where he had his kids and he was reading to them about Trump and building a wall. And so so
is he using Trump's speeches to get them to fall asleep, or
yeah, it was like that. It was weird. It was like he was telling them bedtime stories about Donald Trump, and it was the strangest thing I've ever seen. So I did several cartoons on that, and but he again, that was when you were starting to see that he liked what he could recognize what Trump was doing and how Trump was getting ahead, and so that he could, you know, use those things to maybe benefit him in the future, which, you know, I'm thinking is probably going to happen. But he's not going to be able to be quiet much longer. He's going to have to start coming out and pressing the flesh and, you know, talking to more people about what his stance is and stances is on domestic and international issues, right? I mean, eventually he's going to have to do that. So he's been pretty quiet up until this point.
Yeah. I have to admit that I don't understand. For the past 6 years, I haven't understood Republican voters very well and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, but
I used to be a Republican. I mean, as a matter of fact, I voted for Kasich over Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was, for me, it was anybody but him. And of course, in the general, I voted for Hillary, but I mean, I just, the thing about me is I just cannot see how people can't see what a danger he is. And especially after January 6th, I can't understand how people can't see how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can chalk it up to is just brainwashed or something. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
mind numbing to me. So,
Yeah. I'm curious, as you said you're a Republican, were you because there's many different types of Republicans. Were you
a fiscal conservative.
okay.
I'm very liberal on social issues though, but
Yeah.
fiscally I'm conservative.
Yeah,
So
because I most of the Republicans that I'm still friends with, fiscal conservative social liberals and stuff.
right,
So,
right. And it's I don't know, the conservatism has changed. I mean, it's not Reagan's party anymore. It's now Trump's party. I mean, and
yeah,
it's not the party of Lincoln anymore. It's Trump's party. And I've
yeah,
done cartoons on that as well. I mean, and again, I come back to why can't people see it? Why can't people see, okay, this guy on the right is speaking, like Kitzinger during the hearings. And
oh,
this
okay,
guy sounds like a logical, right-minded human being. But
yeah,
then Trump, like in his rally yesterday at Waco, I mean, he's saying things that are just so unbelievable that there couldn't be more a split between black and white and seeing the two differences, the old Republican Party and this new whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious. This is a question. One of the questions I have. This is the polarized age, right, and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm a liberal, but I used to have conservative friends and stuff, and I'm wondering, did you go through the same experience and stuff? And as a former Republican and stuff, who's seen the stark differences, do you have any hopes that we can bridge the divide or no?
Yeah, well, yeah, I've absolutely I've seen the polarization in the country. I mean, it's just, and it's gotten so much worse since Trump came into office. And I don't know. I think he relies on that in a certain way. And many of my friends, whether they're conservative, liberal, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I have seen a couple of instances where people have seen the light. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Conservative friends of mine who I thought, oh, this guy's never, or gal is never going to change. They're always going to just be, trust this guy and listen to everything he says. But then something will happen. Okay. Maybe they have a gay brother or cousin or whatever, and
Yeah,
Trump will say something and they'll be like, I can't take that anymore. I was good with him up until this point. Well, he's crossed the line. Or, maybe, someone is of immigrant descent and he says something negative about immigrants, and they're
yeah,
just like, I can't, okay, that's it, I'm done with him. And I've seen a couple of instances like that where people have actually said, yeah, no, that's not good. I,
yeah.
I didn't think it would happen, and these were friends of mine too. And so that's given me a little bit of hope.
Yeah. But it has to become a personal thing, right? The personal experience gets them to convert, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think it has to be something that just hits them deep, and whatever it is, it they're like, that's enough. But what worries me is that there's not enough solid thinking, minded conservatives left, because a lot of them have either retired or just quit or decided, or they've lost their elections.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that old guard to bring the Republican Party back. I just think it's gone.
Yeah.
And I worry about that because for the longest time people were able to reach across the aisle and talk to each other, and everybody thought Joe Biden was going to, because he had such a good history of reaching across the aisle and bringing
Yeah.
Republicans and Democrats together on issues and he has, to some extent, he has done some of that, but not to the extent that I think this country needs it. I think this country needs a healing, and it's just not happening right now.
Yeah. Because I used to my conservative I used to have conservative friends who I used to have civil conversations. A lot of
Absolutely.
that's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's because you start and then it just goes down that rabbit hole, and you're just like,
Yeah,
I'm not following you down
you
that
can't.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, you can't talk about crazy, right?
No, I won't. I won't talk about crazy.
Yeah, it's not good for your mental health, right?
No.
So, yeah,
No. Or again, the mental health of the country. I mean, I keep coming back to that, but I mean, it's what you see now, that divide is indicative of the country. It's just, and it permeates through. What really upsets me the most is it permeates through families, and
yeah,
you see families being split apart by it. I mean, and that's the worst. That's the
yeah.
worst.
I have some of those struggles in my family too. So,
Yeah, I'm sure we all do. I mean, you can't sit down at Thanksgiving without, Uncle Fred putting on the red hat and
yeah, yeah, and
going
you
down
love them.
crazy road.
Yeah, because like you love them still, but it's difficult to be around them sometimes and stuff.
Yeah, because you can't reason. There's no reasoning,
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately. And
yeah,
I've tried, believe me, I have tried. I've really tried. And tried to see, because I learned early on in debating, the best way to debate an issue is to try and put yourself in the other person's shoes for a bit, and
yeah.
kind of try and see it from the way they're seeing it. When I do that, it's almost impossible for me.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but I know it's not funny.
It's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
I'm laughing out of grim experience.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the pandemic has been a big part of all of our lives and stuff. How's the pandemic affected you personally? And I'm curious to know how the pandemic has affected your local community. What are issues that are your local community facing right now?
Well, pre-pandemic, 2016, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. So I've had to deal with that and COVID at the same time, going through, 6 rounds of chemo. And
Yeah.
every time I go through chemo, having to be so careful, and me and my wife having to be so careful, because if she gets it, she's going to bring it home and give it to me. And if I get it, I'm immunocompromised. So, it's going to be bad. So we've been, knock on wood, we have not caught it. And it's been 3 years of being extremely careful, and, trying to, navigate, daily life. Luckily, most cartoonists do pretty well isolated, and so I've been isolated for 3 years, and for me, it hasn't been that big of a deal. For my wife, it was a bit of an adjustment, but thank
Mm.
goodness her work let her work from home, and she was able to be here, and it was great. So in some ways, the pandemic, I don't it brought her and I closer, and in another weird way, it made my art a little bit stronger, because it forced me to focus. I used cartooning and art as a distraction from what I was going through.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do quite a few cartoons a week.
Yeah.
And so that ability to express myself through my cartooning has been a godsend, because it's allowed me to, like I said, distract myself and not think. Because when you start sitting around thinking about what's going on when you have cancer, that can be mentally, it can be a real detriment. And if you can keep your spirits up and anything to distract you and not think about that, move forward. And it's always extremely helpful. And my
Okay.
art, the same thing. My art has just blossomed during the time, because I've had the time to concentrate on it and think about it, and work on it.
Yeah. 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 You mentioned how, before we did our talk, you mentioned that you were willing to talk about how your experience with cancer has changed your perspective on things and how you approach cartoons. Could you tell me about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a much deeper understanding of the healthcare system, for sure,
Yeah.
how doctors work, how nurses work, the inside workings of, healthcare, basically having to deal with insurance and all that. It's really deepened my understanding of it, and therefore has, I think, given me the opportunities to concentrate on those types of issues. I've done so many COVID cartoons. I mean,
Yeah.
and first responder cartoons, and seeing that firsthand, there's nothing like that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of that, it's broadened my, thought process, I guess.
Mhm. Oh, okay, cool, cool. I'm curious. How do you do your cartoons? Do you still do pen and paper, computer, or?
Well, up until in two, it's funny, in 2016, when I was diagnosed and had to go into the hospital, I was actually without pen and paper in the hospital. So I was actually drawing cartoons on an iPhone with my finger.
Oh,
And so I was
I've never heard
I
of
was
that.
right then about to I was in the process of transitioning from analog to digital
Oh,
completely. And now I do my roughs in pencil on
okay.
small pieces of scrap paper and then snap them on the phone or on the iPad. And then it's basically inked on the iPad.
Oh,
But
I didn't know that.
yeah, that change has every once in a while I'll do one in ink. Like if I want to just sling some ink, freehand or something like that, I will do one in ink. Or if it's a caricature that I want to, I want to have my free hand, my analog hand in there, I'll do
Uh,
it with pencil, pen, and ink. But mostly now it's digital.
okay. How's the resolution? I'm curious because the iPhone is actually kind of small, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess a lot of it depends on. There's a lot of things. It depends on the program you're using. It depends on, you know, you can get up to 600 DPI. I mean, that's plenty
on a
for a print.
phone?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Depending on the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your program? Is it Procreate or?
No, I actually use Clip Studio Paint, which is it used to be called Manga Studio,
Oh,
and
okay.
they transitioned over and made it a full-on graphics program. I love it. If you For your viewers who have never tried it, I really recommend Clip Studio Paint. It's a really nice program. You can do layers, you can do everything you can do in Photoshop, yet it has so many different types of pens and brushes and sprays and things that you can really experiment with. So it's really
Oh.
nice.
I've never heard of that and stuff. I've never because I'm still old fashioned. Half of what I do is on paper and pen and ink and paper, and then
Right.
half of it I scan it in the computer and I go to Photoshop and stuff. Yours seems a lot simpler than mine. Yeah, and stuff, and it sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah. I mean, I eliminated a scanner, you eliminate a scanner, you eliminate a, desktop or a drawing board, paper, pencil, eraser sheet, eraser crumbs, all that stuff just goes away. I mean, it's immediate. I mean, and I basically can do it and have it straight to the syndicate within, half an hour.
Oh
And,
wow.
in some ways, because you know as well as I do, the the news cycle has changed from like a 2-day news cycle now to like 2 seconds.
Oh.
So in terms of that, the faster you can get something out, I think the better. And we're also competing with memers and people that can slap stuff together really quick. So anything we can do, especially when we're even if you're still using a tablet and a pen to draw. I
Yeah.
mean, but anything you can do to speed up the process, I think it's just another tool in the toolbox.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
Oh yeah. No, it sounds like fun and stuff. It's just I never heard of that. I do know some people who do Procreate and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I never
Yeah.
thought of doing it on a because I always think the phone screen is so small and stuff. But I guess
Well, that was only a one-time deal because all I had was a phone. If I'd have had my iPad, I would have been drawing on my iPad. But that was only because all I had was my phone.
uh,
And I remember the cartoon. I think I drew Trump as a man of war, like a jellyfish, and it was a complicated drawing. So I had, how the jellyfish, the big bulb kind of floats on the top of the water. Well, that was his head, but it had all these tentacles coming down from underneath him. So it was quite a complicated drawing. Um, but I managed somehow to pull it off on my phone because I was on deadline that week. So
oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I think I accidentally passed over. Did you mention about what issues in your local community?
with COVID,
Yeah. Or
yeah.
just during the pandemic period and stuff. Like what are issues that your community, in Jacksonville, your area, was it facing?
Well, we had several instances where we had high transmission.
Oh,
It's
okay.
since leveled off. I was looking this morning. I think all of Florida. There's one area down in South Florida that's still medium transmission, but everything now is pretty much. Actually, I looked at the overall numbers because I usually check them at least once or twice a week, and it looks like hospitalizations, deaths, and number of people catching COVID across the United States has actually fallen precipitously. And so that's good news.
Yeah.
But we did go through several, DeSantis wanted to open up the state of Florida. He wanted to use Florida as an example. So he opened up as quickly as he could. I mean, he didn't want to keep us locked down any longer than he had to. And I can understand part of that too. We're a tourist state. You need to have people coming into the state. You need to not have people being scared. But I mean, there was a point where there was a definite need to have a lockdown. I mean, you can't jam that many people into Disney World with that much community spread and not expect it to be like a super spreader event. So here in Northeast Florida, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. And we only had 2 or 3 times when it was high transmission. So
Okay, good. I'm glad things are better now, though.
oh, much better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious. Florida's gone through a lot of extreme weather and stuff. Is there a general consensus now that climate change is real among Floridians, or is there like a lot of denialism among the more conservative elements of Florida?
Well, the Florida legislature is conservative. I mean, it's so, and a lot of those guys are. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if conservatives will ever see climate change as a real thing, but I don't think they'll. And even if they do, I don't think they'll admit to it because they want to go after the votes. We come back to that base again. That they want to me anyway. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that climate change deniers are pandering to the base, to the Republican base. And those are people, sadly, that either are uninformed about climate change, don't really understand it, and can't see that, they're like, well, what does global warming have to do with, Florida having more hurricanes? Well, it has a lot actually to do with it. Rising sea levels have a lot to do with it. The seas warm, creates more storms, you get more hurricanes. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sad. Even with the weather and stuff, they still deny it.
It's you just don't see them. It's almost like a Band-Aid effect. We're going to ignore it, and we're going to we'll just wait for the hurricanes, and when they come, we'll just fix it or try to fix it. I don't know. I don't see a lot of legislation coming out of Tallahassee in favor of climate change legislation. I don't see it. I wish I did, and I wish I had better news. I mean, you're in California, right?
Yeah.
So California is probably a lot more progressive in terms of that.
Yeah, it is. It is and stuff. I have to both Newsom and forgot Brown and all the even Schwarzenegger was
sure.
Even though was fairly cognizant of climate
and
change.
He still is. I find Arnold Schwarzenegger an interesting character. I mean, he's still posting videos now about the dangers of just what we're talking about. Climate change denial and January 6th denial, and all those things. And I admire that.
Yeah, I've grown to admire anti-Trump Republicans because they stay in the party and they're speaking even if like Jeff Flake and
oh yeah, Jeff Flake. I agree 100%.
So yep. I may not agree with their politics, but
or Cheney,
I admire their courage.
Even Cheney, Kitzinger.
Yeah. I never thought I would respect. I never thought I would admire Cheney, but I really admire Cheney for taking a stand.
Absolutely. I mean, and like you said, there are some of their proposals or some of their politics I'm 180, completely opposed to, but the bedrock focus on democracy and the importance of democracy during the January 6th hearings, that's what sealed it for me. I'm like, I could sit down and have a cup of coffee with either of these people and probably have a great conversation with them.
Yeah. But I think that's part of the thing about this country. You can still respect and like somebody even if you disagree with them up to a certain point. and stuff. And I think with those Republicans, I mean, like when I used to have my conservative friends, we used we cared enough about the friendship not to get too excessive, I
Yeah,
guess, or not
that's right.
to cross a line and
That's
stuff. But
right.
I don't.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, that sort of disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, we had a family gathering yesterday, as a matter of fact. And my wife is going into it saying, you know, don't talk politics. And I'm like, I'm not going
Was this
to.
Thanksgiving? Was this Thanksgiving?
No, this was yesterday.
Oh, just-
Yesterday. So she's like, don't talk politics. Okay, I won't.
But you know what? I'm curious. When
But my
people
wife's
know
smarter
you're a
than me.
political cartoonist, aren't you a target and stuff? Like when when once my relatives and friends knew I was a political cartoonist, they basically know what my politics are and stuff. And
Yeah.
so there's always this. You can tell they're biting their lip, even though they know they want to say something to me.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been cornered at parties, honestly, and been fearful actually. I mean,
Okay.
when someone finds out that I'm a cartoonist and, oh, you're one of those liberal cartoonists, aren't you? Surely you're one of those liberal cartoonists, and just get right in your face.
Yeah.
And it's funny that happened to me at a wake.
Oh wow.
Can believe that? Yeah. So,
Uh,
I mean, there's just no telling where it's going to come from. So, you're right. There used to be able to meet halfway and have a reasonable conversation, and sadly, I just keep coming back to the Trump effect. I just think that has really expedited the polarization and made people less friendly. And I mean, because really his politics are not friendly. His politics are the opposite of friendly. It's the politics of negativity.
yeah.
And so once you've bought into that, that's all you're going to be. That's
Yeah.
all.
How was your dinner? Was your yesterday's dinner okay or?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's mostly family members, so they know not to bring anything up with me, and
Yeah.
unless they agree with me. Unless it was a cartoon that they saw the previous week, they're like, you know what, that was pretty good.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm scared of knowing what because I did a lot of anti-Duterte cartoons. I don't know the effect that's had on my family, you know. But yeah, but
I did a few anti-Duterte cartoons as well.
oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
send them to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for doing that and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we have 4 minutes for this round and stuff.
Okay,
You want to continue on?
would you like to?
Oh, I'd love to and stuff.
Okay, sure, that'd be
Yeah,
fine. It went by fast.
yeah. It went by. Yeah,
That means it's a good
that's
conversation.
yeah. Oh, yeah. But I was thinking what you were saying. In 4 minutes, Reagan. He was a conservative. I didn't like his politics and stuff, but he was a personally nice man. He was friends with Tip O'Neill and Ted Kennedy, right, and stuff. And I'm wondering if that's something you miss, because you were saying how Trump is mean and stuff, right?
Right, but I mean, I mentioned Biden before. If you think about it, he's like the Democratic version of Reagan. I mean, he's the same
Yeah,
way. He has very strong liberal, tendencies and thoughts, but he's willing to talk. I mean, to even people that oppose him. And I think that's why through the years he's managed to get a lot done.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's true.
Reagan as well. Same
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah,
And there's not enough of it. There's not enough of that now. It's just, I don't know. I wish I had the answer.
yeah. I don't have the answer either. It was painful for me to lose those friends,
Me
a lot
too.
of those conservative friends, because I knew them out of that. Nowadays you think of people just through their political affiliation, but I know these people were more than just that. They were the person that I went to when I was feeling bad about something, when
Yeah.
I needed a friend and stuff. And so
Yeah.
I know that they're more complex than their political, but yeah, I'm one of many reasons I'm mad at Trump. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's just one reason. Yeah. But yeah, it's absolutely. I have so many friends like that they're just gone. And it saddens me.
Yeah, you decided
Hey,
to come back. Thank you.
no problem.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm curious now. Um, you know, um, I've asked this of other cartoonists, and I think just because I'm kind of nosy, but who are your cartoonist heroes and influences?
Well, there's several. I was lucky enough to have met the late great Jeff McNelly before he passed away.
Oh, you met McNelly? Oh, wow.
Yeah, a few times actually. And he was always a hero of my dad. Really introduced me to McNelly. He gave me a magazine with a McNelly drawing, color drawing on the cover that just blew me away when I was a kid. And
Uh,
well, kid, but probably high school, college, and
well, still a kid. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, I just always wanted to meet him, and finally, when I had the chance to meet him, sometimes when you meet your heroes, it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
He was not a disappointment. He was a really kind guy. Gave his time to young cartoonists, and really had a profound influence on me. Not just in the way, he was a conservative cartoonist too.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of the best conservative cartoonists out there.
Absolutely, and I still miss him, and but he just in the brief conversations I was able to have with him at conventions and stuff, he was always very complimentary of my work, and
Yeah.
gave me some little tidbits, and I'll never forget that. And so him for sure. I love Pat Oliphant's work, just
Yeah.
his line work, and that's the spontaneity of his drawing style. I just love that.
Yeah.
um Going back a little further, I don't know if you're familiar with Carl Hubenthal.
No, who is
They
that?
used to call him Hubie.
Oh, okay.
I have a few of his originals. One, I think his daughter was selling some on eBay about
Oh,
10
wow.
years ago, and I was able to get like 4 or 5 originals of his. And same thing, his line work, with like he worked with a grease pencil like Herblock,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just incredible line ink and grease pencil work.
What's the time period for him? Uh,
He would have,
50s, 60s, or
I think he worked up until the 70s and maybe the early 80s. I'm not 100% sure,
oh,
but he yeah, he's passed away now, but he was one of the greats. And just it's funny. I always look at cartoonists. This may seem kind of weird, but I always look at cartoonists in terms of how they draw before I look at their politics,
yeah.
because the drawing is what pulls me in. And if I like the style, and then I'll start paying more attention to their politics and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, those are probably my big three. And go back even further. I mean, Damier in France, turn of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
century. You can't do any better than that guy. I mean, he was, and you can almost consider him the father of modern editorial cartooning. I would think one of the fathers, anyway.
Yeah. I got a library discard of Damier, and I look at it all the time and stuff. I love his stuff, and
Oh yeah,
yeah. But yeah,
and
I kind of get
to imagine that those things were being drawn on a giant stone,
yeah.
lithographic stone, and carried to the printers and printed out. They're lithographs basically, but it's incredible.
Oh yeah. I talked to another editorial cartoonist, Eric Garcia, because I was asking him about lithography and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
Mm-hmm.
have you tried that lithography or?
Oh yeah, but not on the stones. There's another process, pronto plate.
Oh,
Pronto plate is basically a mylar surface,
yeah.
and it uses the same technique as lithography. You basically draw on it with ink or an ink pen, and then you go over it just like you would a stone, a lithographic stone, and then you clean the surface, but the ink adheres to the ink you've put on the surface, and then
Oh,
you can print
okay.
multiple copies of that. So it's the lithographic process, but it's on a much thinner, something that's portable, because
Oh,
those
okay.
stones literally they weigh like 20, 30 pounds. They can get heavy. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I talked to Eric about it and stuff, and I'm listening to you and stuff. I've never tried lithography, but like Damier, Goya,
Mhm.
a lot of those great satirical artists use litho, and I was just,
Sure.
do you like it?
I do like it. I like um, the final product a lot, and the fact again that you can run multiple copies. I
Yeah.
usually with the Pronto plate you can usually get like 10 good pulls,
Oh,
but I use them in my fine art too. I haven't really done any Pronto plate with cartooning. I've only really done it with my fine art,
okay.
and I usually will run a series of 10. Um, and that's about all you can get before the surface starts to degrade, because
Oh,
after a while, once it runs through the press a number of times, it starts to pull the original ink that you put on the surface off, and so
oh,
then you start to lose some of the line quality. So
okay. One
Pronto
of
plate, you should Google it.
Okay. Because I always think now one of these days I got to try it. So yeah, I'll try it. Pronto played it and stuff. So
Okay.
now that you mention it and stuff, you majored in fine arts in college, right? And you
Yeah.
do art that's apart from your political cartooning. So I love going to your Facebook page to look at your paintings and drawings and stuff. So yeah, if you've been wondering who that creepy person is who's been looking at your Facebook page, I want to apologize right now. But how do you what have how have you enjoyed those artistic outlets?
Well, my master's degree was in fine art. I didn't really get into political cartooning until, well, I did a little bit. I worked for the Alligator at the University of Florida. I did a
Oh,
few political cartoons for them, but I didn't really seriously get into it until after I got out of school. So I kind of came to political cartooning kind of through art in a weird way. But um, art to me, it's like breathing. I have several different things I do. I do a lot of, like I said, printmaking, lithography, woodcuts.
yeah,
Um, I've done some large scale drawings, like the one behind me on the wall.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I, um, I lately I've been using more pen and ink kind of splattering techniques. I did a
oh,
series last year during the pandemic of crows, um, where I would basically take paper and just splash it with ink, and then try and go back in and find the actual figure of the crow in this kind of, it was almost like a Rorschach test.
okay.
What do you see in there? I
Yeah, I
would
saw
try to
some of
find,
them on Facebook. They
yeah, I would
look cool.
try to find the bird in there and pull it out with drawing. So um and I also show here in town. I've had several shows, one man shows over the last few years. I've got a gallery here that represents me. The
Oh,
Vault
cool.
Gallery here in Jacksonville represents me. They've been really good to me. They gave me a one man show. They've given me a one man show of my fine art, and they've also given me a one man show of my political cartoons, which was like a first for Jacksonville. I don't know if there's ever been a showing of just political cartoons here, maybe not even in the south, in the northeast part of Florida, but it was huge. It was a big turnout. People loved it. um, Sold a lot of originals, sold a lot of prints, but people just, people like to see the originals. They like to
Yeah.
see ink on paper and stuff like that was before I had really moved mainly to digital. I still had a backlog of,
Oh,
of original art that I could show. So
yeah. I didn't think of that. Now, if you want to do a show of your new stuff, do you just print it out from the
yeah,
digital file?
it'd be prints, and like I said, the spattering of originals that I've done. Mostly
Okay.
mostly caricatures. Most of the ink on paper stuff I do would be caricatures. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
So
when I listen to you, I look at you, I look at Eric Garcia, I look at Stephanie McMillan. All three of you are leading sort of a life that I kind of want to live. Where
well,
where I do both political cartoons, but I also want to do fine arts too. Like I want to do murals, I want to try out lithography, I want to paint and stuff. And when I see you three, doing that stuff, you're in galleries, you're doing art and stuff. That's sort of the life I'm trying to lead in my own life,
well,
right?
that's great, and I've seen your work. Your fine art stuff is amazing. I mean, and
Oh,
you should be in galleries, and you just need to go out and you know you know pound the pavement Find a
Yeah.
gallery, find a gallery that understands what you're doing and is willing to, to take a chance on you, or, because the vault took a chance on me several years ago, and it's been a great relationship. Like I said, and it's about personalities too. When you need to make sure that whoever the gallery director is, you get along with them and they understand you and you understand them. Like a couple of my gallery directors have, they've been conservative, and they still want the liberal cartoons. They want people to see it. I mean, they
Yeah.
like the fact that it stirs up and gets people talking, and that's all good.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things with me. I love connecting to other artists, being I just love being an artist and stuff,
Yeah.
you know, like if I always figured that, Thomas Hart Benton, he's one of my favorite. He said that being an artist is great if you can survive the first 20 years. And so,
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. But yeah, I mean, I've always tried to think of it this way. I like my art to kind of inform my cartoons, and then the cartoons kind of inform the art as well. So I like to let the two things kind of play against one another and help each other out. Does that make sense? Kind of? I mean,
yeah, yeah, kind of, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I know like Goya, he's that way, right? Some of the
sure,
fine artists that we admire and stuff, he's that
sure.
way and
And,
stuff.
and you
So
could say the same thing. We mentioned Damier. You could say the same thing about Damier. I mean, his work could be considered both political or artistic, and
yeah,
he didn't just do political cartoons. He was doing, lithographs of fine artwork. So,
yeah,
and Degas and, Manet, and the list goes on and on,
yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah, I
so
didn't know
yeah,
Manet did political stuff, I guess, but I don't know Manet very well. So
I didn't mean in terms of that, but I mean, early on, he was doing some things, that were in his kind of like drawing style.
oh,
He had
okay.
he had a dad. It's just funny, Manet. I have a kind of a kinship with Manet because both our dads were bankers, and
Oh,
so yeah, and so um, his relationship with his dad seemed almost similar to mine. His dad encouraged him to draw, and
oh,
didn't really push him into banking, and so
yeah,
he would do portraits of his father that were kind of loving, you could tell, and
yeah,
so I don't think you have to be political to have a message.
yeah,
I think the message can be love, or it can be all kinds of, it can be anything, and that's what
yeah,
I'm talking about, this crossover between art and political cartoon. I think there's a way to find that, and I'm still searching for it. I would love to have my, and this also kind of plays into political cartooning as a dying art form, so to
yeah,
speak. I'm in a kind of a transition period right now where I'm pivoting back to art,
yeah.
and so and it's because I kind of can see the writing on the wall. It's taken me 30 years to see the writing on the wall, but
Yeah.
I think that there's some serious concerns about whether this profession is going to even continue with
Yeah.
with the death of newspapers. And you know, I still don't think they figured out the paradigm, the advertising paradigm, the online advertising paradigm, to allow the amounts of money that can afford to have a political cartoonist, a digital political cartoonist. Now, having said that, I think the Washington Post is doing a pretty good job because they've kind of done both. They've maintained the print side, but they've also kind of, found cartoonists that can do their digital format work as well. So
Okay.
that kind of format maybe is what the future looks like, what the Washington Post is kind of doing. But I
Oh,
mean, there's only one Washington Post, and
yeah,
everybody wants to be in there.
yeah. I was going to ask this later, but I mean, what do you see as you see it just slowly declining, the future of America, at least American editorial cartooning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a much, I was talking about Cartooning for Peace earlier. That's, based in France. And they run through Cartooning for Peace, I get my cartoons published on the front page of Le Monde. And
Yeah.
they also run them on Fridays on the news, like in a kind of meet the press kind of format, but it's
Yeah.
for French politics. And they have a cartooning representative on that show every Friday evening that shows a plethora of cartoons from
Oh,
all over the world. And so, there's a much deeper and richer understanding and appreciation for cartooning in Europe. And it's sad, and that saddens me, seeing that, because I know in the United States, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's a bottom line thing here, but over there, and you could even see it when Charlie Hebdo happened. You could see the importance of cartooning. It's like in their DNA or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, Damier. I mean, you can I keep going back to Damier, but it's just there. It's part of their history. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just, I'm wondering, I just recently got released from the Philippine News Today because
oh, I'm
they're not
sorry to hear
earning
that.
money and
Yeah.
stuff, and so,
Yeah.
uh, because I'm looking around for another newspaper to do stuff for, but I have no. I would love to still do Filipino American commentary and stuff and
Mhm.
commentary in the Philippines, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet and stuff.
Well, my wife's Filipino, so if I hear of anything, I'll let you know.
Okay. And yeah, thank you very much. Oh, I didn't know
And if I
that and
find,
stuff.
huh?
I
You
didn't know
didn't know that?
you're married to somebody in Filipina.
My wife is Filipina, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've had pancit
Oh yeah.
uh, and have you tried balut?
No, I have not tried, but I know what it is.
I am
I
American
think I'd have
born.
to go. I think I'd have to go to the Philippines to try that.
No, no, don't worry. I am American born and stuff, and I've only been in the Philippines 1 month my entire life. But I remember my dad tried balut, and I had no idea what that was.
Imagine when you get to the beak, that's a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, well,
but
tell your
no, I
wife I
mean,
said hi.
we cook Filipino food. My wife's a great cook. Her mom's a great cook.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My
And
dad's a cook and stuff. He was a cook in the Navy and stuff,
oh
and
wow.
he's a wonderful. I'm curious though. I have a stereotype because of my own family that Filipino food tastes great, but it's not necessarily great for your heart and stuff.
Mm.
Do you cook more healthy Filipino foods, or is it
Well, it is kind of meat based. It's a meat based. um, yeah, I mean, not we like adobo,
Oh yeah,
the fish dishes and stuff like that, curry curry.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there's not a lot of veggies in there.
yeah.
There's really not.
Yeah, so if you have a heart doctor, as a Filipino, I want to apologize to him for you.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, you know, I wanted. This is a question about me personally doing political cartoons the past 6 years. I've been scared of the polarization and the threats of democracy, both here and in the Philippines. But when I've talked to a lot of cartoonists, both here and in the Philippines, they're worried, but they're not scared and stuff. They seem to have this grim determination to use their cartoons to defend democracy.
Hmm.
And so I'm wondering, do you have that grim determination, or are you kind of more wimpy like me, I guess, you know?
I don't think I'd call it a grim determination. I think I'm just determined.
Yeah.
Just determined to shine, shine a light, truth to power, and shine a light, when, especially when it's something that affects me directly. I want, to help people kind of understand that what a democracy is kind of like what we're doing. I mean, in a weird way. I mean, the First Amendment is extremely important to political cartoonists. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, but you know, we have that right here, and to criticize our politicians, and that's what part of being a part of a democracy is about, is
Yeah.
is is the willingness for that the democracy should be able to take it, and that's why January 6th scared the hell out of me. I mean, I've never been scared, and I don't think I've ever even been scared about you know people's futures until that day. I
Yeah.
mean, it really like the hair on the back of my neck stood up when I saw those people ascending the stairs of the Capitol. I was scared, and I was scared
Yeah.
for democracy, and I'm still scared for democracy because I don't think it's over. I think that if certain factions have their way, it's going to be worse. And
Yeah.
and again, the thing that just befuddles me, it just blows my mind, is that we fought to maintain those very things in Europe
Yeah.
that are in danger of being taken away from us at home. And
Yeah.
it's that's the part that really, if I'm scared of anything, that's the part I'm scared of.
Yeah.
And that people don't see it. Either
Yeah.
they don't see it or they refuse to see it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think for me, I faced a double whammy in a sense is that I'm scared of I'm scared of the polarization due to the Trumpists in America, but in the past 6 years I've been scared of actually a similar polarization due to Duterte in the Philippines and stuff. Like how can you claim to be a to support traditional Christian values and turn a blind eye to extrajudicial killings,
yeah,
right? And
exactly.
and with I think with Trump, the Capitol insurrection scared me, but I think for me, my big fear happened in Charlottesville and
Mhm,
stuff. Not so much Charlottesville, but Trump's response to Charlottesville
mhm,
scared me and stuff. I think that was a big fear for me, but yeah, I don't know, but one of the things in the past few, about 2 years ago, I talked to some Asian cartoonists that was invited to have a talk. I didn't really have much to say, but I admired their courage. Cartoonists from Malaysia,
mhm.
cartoonists. I forgot the name of the cartoonist who won the Cartooning for Courage Award, and I forgot his name, but I admire his courage. And then I had a talk with Pedro Molina and some Filipino cartoonists. And I admire Pedro's courage a lot. And I admire the courage of the Filipino cartoonists because there's been, as well as the extrajudicial killings in the Philippines, critics of Duterte have been getting killed and stuff. And yet these Filipino cartoonists still do their cartoons, even though they know about the extrajudicial killings. They know about the red tagging and stuff. And so, I'm when I did my cartoons, I'm in San Francisco, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm safe.
Mhm, mhm.
So, but so there's no real cost to me in doing a cartoon against Duterte and stuff.
Sure.
And since I live in a blue state, there's no real cost to me in criticizing Trump and stuff.
Mhm.
But
Right.
I admired them. I admire you for doing your cartoons in a red state and stuff, and I admired the Filipino cartoonists for doing their cartoons. Pedro, he had to leave Nicaragua because of his
I know.
cartoons, right?
Yeah, I had a long conversation with him in Sacramento about his situation. It was terrible.
Yeah,
He had to leave
yeah,
family there. He left
yeah.
family
And
there.
but what I admire about them is um, and what I admire about you is you still have a sense that cartoons can your cartoon. I don't think you can make good cartoons unless you think that your cartoons can make a difference.
That's absolutely true. I mean, otherwise, why do it? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and
That's why I love doing my cartoons. I don't know if my cartoons will make much of a difference, but I try to think that I hope that you know, um, somebody was telling me that they worry that their cartoons are only preaching to the choir. But then I talked to this poet and she was telling me sometimes the choir needs preaching.
Mhm.
That if you can't reach the
I like that.
80%,
I like that a lot.
yeah, sometimes if you can't reach the 80% of the people who like Duterte or the 80% of the Republicans who like Trump, you can assure maybe your cartoons are for the 20% of the people who don't like Duterte or the 20% of the Republicans who don't like Trump. You're not alone. You know, you know, yeah,
Right, right.
the function of our cartoon switches, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing I'd like to bring up is, the importance of local editorial cartoons,
Yeah.
because I get more feedback from my local cartoons sometimes than I do from my national cartoons. You do something about something that's affecting somebody on the grassroots level, you're going to get a letter or you're going to get a call, good or bad. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think, when you were talking about in terms of you transitioning yourself to,
yeah,
trying to find, coming out of this one job and into another, look for local venues.
yeah,
I think that you can make a difference on a local level because it's closer to people's hearts. It means more to them. You can do 10 cartoons about Trump and people are like, yeah, whatever. Okay, it's the same stuff. We know how he is. But if you do something about, I don't know, a municipal, you know, sewer system that's failed or something like that
yeah,
affects people in a real time, you can make a difference. I mean, you can enlighten people and open their eyes, and so I that's why I'm still with the Baker County Press after over 30 years. I love waking up on Monday and reading the paper and coming last week's paper and coming up with an idea that I think will have an effect on local people,
yeah,
real people, people that it's affecting, that it has some effect on their lives. So
yeah, yeah. I read about that. Several people have told me that American editorial cartoonists no longer have the power of her block in a national level, but we still have a lot of power on the local issues and stuff. And that
yeah,
seems to be what you're saying too.
yeah, I think that's exactly what I said, and I agree with it 100%. And there some of the national papers may be drying up, but there's still, people still in small towns and local communities, they still like to pick up their weekly paper and read what's going on in their community, their own communities. And if you can, enlighten them or even piss them off, because when you piss somebody off, at least they're engaged. And
Yeah,
that's part of our job, is getting people engaged as much as anything, and so smart people get that. Smart people understand what satire is and why you're doing that. But
okay.
again, I've always gone back to local cartooning as one of the another one of the bedrocks of our country, and local reporting, and you know it's really important.
Yeah, yeah. How is your paper doing though? How's that paper
It's
doing?
it's doing fine. We just it was actually just sold, and we have a new publisher, and um, she seems to like me. We so um,
Yeah,
yeah, and I've gotten some really good letters over the last few months,
okay,
and maybe how long? She's probably been there a year now since she's taken over, and yeah, so I'm happy.
okay.
I
Yeah,
had a really great relationship with the former publisher, and all my editors have always been great, and so I just think it just a continuation is, and she had been at the paper. She had been at the paper for a while, um, and when she decided to buy it, because my former publisher was retiring, and so I've dealt with her for a number of years, so it was kind
oh,
of a smooth transition.
okay.
But the
I'm just
paper's doing
amazed.
great. Paper's
Yeah,
doing
because
great.
I'm just amazed when you meet your editor because when I worked in the Philippine News Today, I emailed all my cartoons, so I never met my editors and stuff. So
Really.
after a while, I forgot what they looked like and stuff because I think I only met them once in 2011. But it was a wonderful newspaper and stuff, and
Right.
I have no I don't begrudge them. It's just that the paper's not earning money and stuff. So
Right.
and it's not just me. A lot of cartoonists I know they've lost their jobs just because their paper doesn't earn enough money anymore and stuff.
Yeah. Well, advertising is a real problem. They don't really have want ads anymore. I mean, that's all gone online with, Craigslist and all that. A lot of this can be blamed on the internet and the rise of the internet and social media. I mean, people are getting their news elsewhere. I mean,
Yeah,
and they can cherry pick. Um, and people do cherry pick. I mean, I cherry pick. You go online and you hit, Asia Times, and then you hit, the Guardian, and then you hit the New York Times, and then you hit the Washington Post, and then you're it's CNN. You watch a video on CNN. You're trying to find the story, but I think in terms of I even force, believe it or not, I even force myself occasionally to go over to Fox News and watch it
Oh,
just so I know what's going on, and I think that's important too. I think you need to just not get pigeonholed into one way of thinking or one venue for your news. And by doing that, you become a more well-rounded journalist in whatever you're doing, writing or
yeah,
cartooning or whatever. So I
yeah.
think that's important.
Yeah, I try to look at but I try to look at sane conservative commentators that I can
Right.
listen to. There's some conservative. I used to like listen to not listen, but I used to read the National Review a lot,
Mhm.
not because I always agreed, but i- as long as it's a logical argument and as long as it's based on the same set of facts and stuff,
Right.
there are certain conservative commentators. It's just that it's hard to what's just kind of Trumpist attack and what's a logical, like fiscal conservatives. I tend to read and try. I understand better than people who attack transgender, you
Yeah.
know.
I think
Those
within the
ones I
first,
just don't listen to and stuff
yeah,
because it's but if you have or okay, what is your alternative to you know um you know the trade with China and stuff? What's a
right.
conservative response? What's a progressive response and stuff? Those things I tend to want to listen to, but if it's an attack on a minority, I tend not to listen to that and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
it depends on the conservative. But I do try to make sure that I don't, because I can be trapped in a box too.
yep. I think within the first couple of paragraphs,
Yeah.
you just know. And,
Yeah.
it's like when you look at someone's Facebook profile, you can, within the first two scrolls, now you can tell. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's important to get several perspectives and not just, and I think that's what's missing in some journalism these days too, is that people aren't first of all, people aren't fact checking. And
Yeah.
that's not just journalists. I mean, you just people that spread misinformation online, they're not fact checking. I
Yeah.
mean, just at least check two sources to make sure this isn't BS,
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
least you can do before you share it or before
Yeah.
you spread.
Yeah. Like I always think, my always thought is like progressives were right some of the time, we're wrong some of the time. Conservatives are right some of the time, conservatives are wrong some of the time. Moderates are right some of the time, moderates are wrong some of the time. So it's always good to check different perspectives to what are the weaknesses in my own arguments.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay. Well, we got 7 minutes left. So
Okay.
I want to give you time so that you can, and I think my last question will just be, since we're cartoonists, what do you love about editorial cartooning?
Well, I can, in comparing it to my art, my fine art, I could kind of approach it that way. When you do a painting, it might go up in a gallery, you may have an opening, you may have at best 100 people come to the opening and see that painting.
Yeah.
But if I get a cartoon in the Washington Post, I know a million people, 2 million eyeballs are going to be on that cartoon for the day.
Yeah.
And that's powerful because you're making a statement, it's your opinion, and you hope, like I said before, you hope it makes change. It change people's minds or hearts or whatever. And so that's a beautiful thing about it. Not that a painting can't change people's hearts and minds too, and it
Yeah.
can, but it's immediate and it's, you get immediate feedback, whether you've ticked people off or whether you've really hit a good one.
Yeah.
So that part of it, I just love. I mean, it's just, I've always loved it. And it's, it really helped me. I mentioned this before, but it really did help me with my health scare, just to have something to fall back on and that I love so much. And,
Yeah.
keep, almost distract me from what I was going through.
Yeah. Yeah. I love political cartoon. Before I did my editorial cartoons, I kind of thought I was a failure as an artist because I didn't feel like my art career was going anywhere. But when I began doing my editorial cartoons and stuff, it gave me it gave me a sense of like it was a boost to my self-esteem and stuff. And it was a great, it gave me the confidence to try other things and stuff, you know. So I didn't feel like so much of, it gave me a purpose too, because there's a lot of crazy things, but there's a lot of terrible things going on in the Philippines. And
Right.
there's a lot of issues in the Filipino American community that I didn't know about, but are really, they need to be voiced and stuff.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's yeah, so you know, political art it gave me a purpose that I didn't have before I did it and stuff.
And a voice.
And a voice, yeah,
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Before then, I was just working in a library, doing books and just kind of wishing. You
No,
know?
that's a great story though. I mean, you found yourself. You found the importance of, of yourself, what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. I think that's incredible. And
Yeah,
follow your heart, usually
yeah,
will lead you in the right direction.
yeah, yeah, and stuff. And I think the arts in general are that way and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I
Thank
think this
you.
ends it for now, and we have 4 minutes to spare and stuff. So, so I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been fun, and keep up the good work. I love your work, and
Oh,
keep fighting the good fight. We all will, and just hope for the future of this profession, because I'm concerned about it.
yeah, yeah. And you keep up your good work too. And I wish you the best in your continued treatments and stuff too.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck with DeSantis. So,
Yeah. We're gonna need some luck with him. We're gonna need some luck
okay.
with both of those, but with both of those guys. So
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting Trump is. I'm always forgetting that Trump's in Florida too. So.
he's there. Like I said, the bookends. You got DeSantis up here and you got Trump down here. So
Okay. Okay. Well, it's probably good that there's space between them because you
yeah,
don't. I don't know if you'd want them to be together.
yeah. Well, if they have to debate, man, get out the popcorn, because that's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that.